What are preferences and why do they matter? If you're voting this election, for the lower house, you'll be asked to number the boxes next to each candidate. 1 is your most preferred candidate, 2 is your next most preferred, and so on. But what happens from there? Let's look at the seat of Mildura at the 2018 Victorian state election. There were 5 candidates, so voters numbered boxes 1 to 5. First, all the 1 votes are counted. You might hear this called a first preference vote or primary vote. Labor had 6,404 voters put them 1, representing a 17% share. The Greens had over 1,400 votes, or nearly 4%. The Nationals had more than 14,000 votes, or 39%. Independent Steve Timmis had 2,500 votes, or nearly 7%. And Independent Ali Cupper had over 12,000 votes, or more than 32%. If any candidate has more than a 50% share, they are elected. If not, the candidate with the least number of votes is eliminated, and the people who put that candidate 1 have their votes sent to who they put 2. Here, the Greens candidate was eliminated, and votes for her went to the other remaining candidates. The tally was then updated, but still no one hit 50%. So, Timmis was eliminated, and votes with him were passed on. At this point, even if a voter's 1 and 2 choices have been eliminated, the vote still flows, moving to their 3 preference. Once again, no candidate had hit 50%. So the Labor candidate was eliminated. His votes moved to the 2 still in the race. After this, Ali Cupper had enough votes to surpass 50%. She was elected. But Mildura was a race with only 5 candidates. You might be wondering what this means for the federal seat of Mallee. This year, Mallee has what's known as a 3-cornered contest, meaning the Nationals, Liberals and Labor are all fielding candidates. Plus, there's also 3 prominent independents, and they're among a field of 13, the largest in Australia. For a similar example, let's look at the Morwell seat at the 2018 Victorian election. There were 11 candidates there. After first preferences, Labor had 34% of the vote, an Independent had 19%, the Liberals had 12%, the Nationals had 10%, the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers had 7%, and another Independent almost 6%. Confused? That's understandable, but it's the exact same process as the Mildura example. It starts with the candidate with the least number of votes being excluded. Their votes are distributed, and so on. In this case, the Labor candidate on 34% did pick up some extra votes as the others were knocked out, but by the time it was down to only 2 candidates, his vote was at 48%. The leading Independent had fewer voters putting 1 next to his name, but essentially 52% of voters had him higher on their ballots than they did the Labor candidate. He was elected. What this tells us is that preferential voting counts can go right down to the wire, so it's worth paying attention to not only who you put as 1, but also the other boxes, because those votes might be decisive. Now, on your way to the polling booth, you may be handed a How to Vote card. On these, you'll find a suggested order put forward by candidates. However, while many voters do follow these cards, you are not obliged to. As a voter, you are free to put candidates in your own preferred order.